spreading round in that Texas town. About to shack outside the game.
Hello, my name is Nick Dinsmore, and I am former WWE superstar Eugene. I am honored that I am part of this induction, and I would like to thank the Nebraska Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame, and especially Lance's family, for allowing me to take part. I read the name Lance Cade for the very first time on Jim Ross's Ross Report, which came out every month on WWE.com. Everyone would log on hoping that he would mention you in the developmental system, and you had to do something good. You had to do something special to get JR to mention you in the Ross Report. I remember reading Lance Cade, this big, young, athletic kid with this long blonde hair, and he was trained by WWE superstar Shawn Michaels in San Antonio, Texas. I remember I met Lance for the very first time in a Channel 5 studio in Memphis, Tennessee, Saturday morning doing live television. It was 2001. It was when Lance first signed with WWE. They sent him to Memphis, Tennessee to wrestle for Memphis Championship Wrestling. Memphis was one of the WWE developmental territories at the time. When I saw him, I saw this big, young, athletic kid with long blonde hair, and he was very impressive. When the WWE closed their Memphis developmental system, Lance was relocated to Cincinnati for WWE's developmental system Heartland Championship Wrestling. I got to wrestle with him more often then because it was much closer to Louisville, which is where I lived. When the WWE closed their Cincinnati developmental territory, Lance was then relocated to Louisville, Kentucky to wrestle for Ohio Valley Wrestling. I remember that Lance didn't move right away. He was commuting from Cincinnati to Louisville and back. He would pack his lunch every day. He would do the 200-mile round trip. And when I asked him, why won't you move? And he said it was best for his family because they just got to Cincinnati. And I thought that was one of the most unselfish things I've ever heard of in my life. That's the kind of guy Lance Cade was. I got to know Lance much better when he got to OVW, and it's here that we became really good friends. We trained in the ring every day. We would wrestle on OVW live events on the weekends. To this day, I still think of him every time I hear the song ZZ Top's LaGrange, because that was Lance's ring music in Louisville. It was in OVW that Lance really perfected his craft of pro wrestling and truly learned how to work. As a heel, Lance Cade had the most heat in the building. The people were chanting Big Bird. Big Bird, Big Bird, Big Bird. And at first, Lance didn't want to react to it. But after a little convincing, he started putting over the fans, and then they just chanted more and louder. And then they started bringing stuffed animals to the ring. Stuffed Big Birds. Big Bird, Big Bird. And Lance is just doing all the mannerisms, just eating it up. He had the people in the palm of his hand. There was one match we had in Louisville. Time for Eugene's big comeback. And I had one of the fans throw me a Big Bird stuffed animal. Lance feeds up, and I'm thinking stuffed animal. No big deal, right? Bam! What I didn't realize was the stuffed animal had these hard marble eyes that cracked him on top of the head. But he kept feeding up, and I kept hitting him, and he's cussing me as he's coming up. It's not until we got in the back that he told me that, God damn, that really hurts. Lance played a huge role in my career. In early 2004, I pitched the character of Eugene to Vince McMahon and the WWE. They liked it, but they wanted to see the Eugene character in front of a live audience before they started writing or putting him on TV. So Eugene got booked for the first time in St. Louis, Missouri. It was a non-televised live event, and I was fortunate to have Lance Cade as my opponent. We were on third. The fans had never seen Eugene before, and traditionally with WWE crowds, if they don't know who you are, they're not going to get behind you. Lance was so good, he had those people cheering for Eugene. It wasn't that they liked me as much as he had the heat. And they were just despised him for picking on poor little Eugene. And at the end of the match, I got beat. The fans are chanting my name all the way back. Eugene, Eugene. I walked back through the curtain to see Triple H, Stephanie McMahon, Arn Anderson, Fit Finlay out of their chairs, giving me a standing ovation because of the guy I was in the ring with made me look that good. The people were chanting my name, and Lance knew how to work with a gimmick character. If I would have wrestled with anybody else, the match would not have been as good. But because Lance knew how to wrestle against Eugene, he made me that night. My ticket to the main roster was punched that night by the guy I was in the ring with. Thank you, Lance. You really get to know someone when you stuff 4 big wrestlers into an economy rental car with their luggage, crisscrossing the United States. You really get to know someone when you've got 4 wrestlers splitting one room that has 2 beds, some random Red Roof Inn or Motel 6 somewhere. We would slide the mattresses off the box springs, and then we would flip a coin to see who gets a mattress and who gets a box spring to sleep on. Lance would always volunteer for the box spring, without a doubt. That's the kind of guy he was. I'm lucky to have met Lance Cade. I'm proud to call him a friend. I'm a better person for having known Lance, and fortunate to have been able to travel around the world with a friend. I'm happy to be a part of inducting Lance Cade into the Nebraska Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame.
Amazing.